Hello, my little mathematicians. Today we're going to cover order of operations. So when we have a numerical expression is a mix of numbers that are separated by plus or minus signs, and there's no equal sign. So for instance, something that looks like this, okay? The order of operations, sometimes referred to as GEMDAS or PEMDAS, it's the proper way to simplify a numerical expression. Okay, and when we say simplify, we get all these numbers simplified down to a singular number. And we do that by following the order of operations. If you need to copy some of this down, feel free to pause the video, get it, and then unpause it, okay, in case it goes too fast. When we're doing the order of operations, we remember GEMDAS or PEMDAS to help us remember which thing to do first and in which order, okay? Now, some of us have heard of PEMDAS before, and they say, do parentheses first. But now it's kind of been changed in some books to say GEMDAS instead, because it's not just parentheses, it's any type of grouping or grouping symbols. Because it can be parentheses or brackets or those weird squiggly braces that you've seen. And it can also be, let's say you had a fraction and there was on top of the fraction like 18 minus 6 plus 2. You would want to simplify that group on top to be one singular number. And if on the bottom of the fraction, there was another thing of like 2 times 3 plus 5, you would want to simplify the bottom of the fraction, the denominator, to a singular number. So that's why they've changed it on some things from PEMDAS to GEMDAS, because it's any type of grouping together, whether it be inside of parentheses or brackets, or if it's a group within a fraction. We want to simplify a fraction down to a singular number on top and a singular number on bottom. Okay, so we would do that first. Then after we have all of our groupings down to a singular number, then we move on to any exponents that we see. Remember that little number up top attached to a base. After we take care of that, we do any multiplication or division. We do any multiplication or division before we do any addition or subtraction. And then notice how we have this little note of left to right here, because multiplication doesn't necessarily always come before division. I'm going to say that again, okay? Just because M comes before D doesn't mean you always multiply before you divide. Same thing with addition and subtraction. Just because A comes before S, you don't necessarily always add before you subtract. Okay, that's why the M and D are grouped together and the A and S are grouped together, because you multiply and divide before you add and subtract. But when deciding between multiplying or dividing, you go from left to right. Meaning like when you read a sentence, you go from left to right. So you do whichever one comes first. Same thing with addition and subtraction. So let's take a look at an example. Here, I'm going to do this multiplication first before I do this division, only because the multiplication came first. Okay, so I'm going to do 12 times 3 is 36, then bring down that divided by 6, and 36 divided by 6 is 6. Now here, I wouldn't do this multiplication first, I would actually do this division first, because it came first when going from left to right. So I'd go 12 divided by 4, which is 3, bring down that times 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so when deciding between multiplication or division, you go from left to right, whichever one comes first. But of course, you do multiplying and dividing before you do any adding or subtracting. And then once you have only adding and subtracting left, you do whichever comes first between those two from left to right. Okay, so remember, GEMDAS stands for grouping symbols. For G, E is exponents, M and D is multiplication and division, and A and S is addition and subtraction. Okay, and when you're writing them out, remember, think of M and D together. You don't always multiply before you divide. It's whatever comes first. And A and S are grouped together because you don't always add before you subtract. You do whichever comes first of those two. All right, if you didn't get all this, feel free to pause it and then, copy it down and then unpause it. And let's go ahead and turn the page. Okay, and let's try some of these using the order of operations. Now, if this is the second day that you guys have done order of operations, why not pause the video, try it yourself, and then unpause it and check yourself. Okay, for this first one, I always go through GEMDAS in my head. And whether you write PEMDAS or GEMDAS, it doesn't matter. Okay, same thing. So do you see any grouping symbols or parentheses? No. Do you see any exponents? No. Any multiplication or division? Yes. 7 times 3 is 21. Bring down the plus 4. And now we're just left with this addition, and 4 plus 21 is 25. Okay, if you got that right, good job. Again, remember, pause the video if you want to give it a try first, and then unpause it to check yourself. Okay, do you see any parentheses? Yes. This 3 plus 7 is 10. And then bring that down, minus 12. Okay, now one thing, in order to get credit, please draw these little carets here to show you what you combined into one number. Like I took care of that 7 times 3, and they became a 21. And then I brought down the plus 4 surrounding it. And then I combined those two into this singular number. So please draw that little caret symbol to show that this and this combine into this, and then bring everything else down you didn't use in each step. Okay, and then continue. Now I'm on 12 minus 10. 12 minus 10 combines to make 2. Okay, for my next problem, you have 12 divided by 6 plus 10. So before you do any addition, you need to take care of multiplication or division. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Bring down that plus 10, and then combine those two. 2 plus 10 is 12. For my next one, do you see any parentheses? No. Do you see any exponents? Yes. What is 3 squared? Call it out. Okay, hopefully you didn't say 6, because it's not 3 times 2. It's 3 times itself 2 times. And 3 times 3 is 9. Sometimes it helps just to write that off to the side, because if you see 3 times 3, you're more likely to put the correct answer of 9. Okay, now bring down the plus 8 times 3. So I just brought down the exponent. I simplified 3 squared to 9, and I brought the other stuff down. Okay, parentheses are gone, exponents are gone, multiplication or division, right there. 8 times 3 combined to make 24. Bring down that plus 9. And now I just need to simplify that. And don't be afraid to actually write it out if you need to, okay? I'd rather you get the right answer than try to do it in your head and miss it. For the next one, do you see any parentheses? Yes. So I'm going to simplify it inside of there first. 9 minus 6 is 3. When we say simplify parentheses, we mean get everything inside of those parentheses down to a singular number. And we did. We combined 9 minus 6 into 3. Now we move on to exponents. Do we see any exponents? Yes, this 3 cubed. Cubed is a special name for anything to the third power. So this is saying 3 times itself 3 times, because the exponent tells me how many times to multiply that base times itself. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So that 3 cubed simplified to 27. Now let's bring those other numbers down. Okay, so parentheses are all simplified to a single number. Exponents are now taken care of and gone. Multiplication or division, right here. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Bring down that minus 27. And now we just have 27 minus 3, which simplifies to 24. If you're getting these right, good job. Okay, now here you're like, wait, 12 minus 2, or what should I do first? Because you knew to start in the parentheses, right? But within the parentheses, you still follow the order of operations. So I want to do exponents before I subtract. So I'm going to bring that exponent down. 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so I brought everything else down except that 2 cubed became an 8. Now I still have parentheses that need to be simplified down to a singular number. And so that 12 minus 8 combines to make a 4. Okay, now I'm to here, and I just go 4 plus 10, which is 14. Remember, be trying these on your own if you want first, so pause it and then try it yourself. Okay, parentheses, yeah, I want to simplify this down to a singular number. So 7 times 3 is 21, plus 2 minus 26. Okay, all I have left is adding or subtracting. So what do you think you should do first? Hopefully you didn't say this one. Hopefully you said this, because remember, when deciding between adding and subtracting, you go from left to right. Okay, and this one came first. So 26 minus 21 is 5. Bring down that plus 2, and 5 plus 2 is 7. For my next one, you have parentheses again. So focus in there. Within the parentheses, you want to take care of those exponents before we add. So 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now I still have parentheses that need to be simplified down to a singular number. So 9 plus 11 combines to make 20. And 20 divided by 5 is 4. Save the best one for last. Look at this, man. Okay, so within the parentheses, what should we do first? We should multiply before we add. So this 4 times 5 is 20. Bring down the plus 3, minus 2 to the 5th. Okay, and then I still have parentheses that need to be simplified to a singular number. So 20 plus 3 is 23. And before I can subtract, I need to do exponents, right? Because the parentheses down to a singular number. Now we move on to the E of GEMDAS, which is exponents. So that's saying 2 to the 5th power. 2 times itself 5 times. Always double check you wrote down the correct amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then I'm going to group them together. That just makes it easier. 2 times 2 is 4. This 2 times 2 is 4, and then bring down that 2. Now instead of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, I have 4 times 4 times 2. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 2 is 32. Or you could have gone 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 4 is 32. Okay? So I simplified 2 to the 5th to become 32. Now I bring down my minus 23. Again, please don't be afraid to work that out off to the side so you don't make a mistake. 12 minus 3 is 9. 2 minus 2 is 0. So that simplifies to make 9. Okay, this next one says, describe the order you would use to simplify the expression below. So in case you ever see directions like this is what they're asking you to do. Okay, first of all, just do what you would normally do. Okay, I'm going to simplify inside of those parentheses first. So I combine those to make 2, and I bring down everything else. Okay, now what it's asking you to do is to describe what you did. So here's what I did. First off, I simplified inside the parentheses. Isn't that the only difference from this line to this line, is that I simplified inside the parentheses to get 2. Okay, then what would you do next? Well, I would take care of this division, right? So 15 divided by 3 is 5. Bring down that plus 2. So you're just telling the person, why does this line look different than this? Well, I combined 15 divided by 3. So I divided. I took care of the division part. Okay, and then after that, what would you do? Well, I would combine these two. I'd go 5 plus 2 and get 7. So then if you're telling the person, how'd you go from here to 7? Well, I added 5 and 2. Okay, and maybe for this one, if you want to be a little bit more specific, let's say we divided 15 by 3. So you're just telling them what you did in the line up above to get to this step. That's what they mean by describe the order, or justify your steps is another way they might say it. Justify your steps of how you did each problem. Okay, go ahead and try that bonus. So pause the video, try it, and then unpause it to check yourself. All right, let's see if we get the last problem of today right. Inside of the parentheses, I want to do those exponents first. So 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay, if you got that part wrong, pause it, erase it, try it again from at least this part, okay, and then come back to us. All right, now we still have the parentheses that need to get simplified down to a singular number. So 18 minus 16 is 2. And then it looks a little bit funky. Okay, when you have a number touching a parentheses with no sign between them, that means that they're being multiplied. Again, when there's a number touching a parentheses with no sign between them, that means that you are multiplying these two numbers. So this is saying 7 times 2, which is 14, plus bring down that 25. Okay, so now you have 25 plus 14. Let's go ahead and work that out. I see way too many mistakes of people trying it in their head and getting the wrong answer. Take the 2 seconds to work it out off to the side, and you should have gotten 39. Okay, but I want to point out right here, this 7 is touching this parentheses, so it's 7 times 2. Okay, because up here, we had the 23 in parentheses, but there was a sign between the 32, or 2 to the 5th, which is really 32, minus 23. Okay, that's why these didn't get multiplied. It wasn't 32 times 23. It was 32 minus 23. So it's only when you have a number touching a parentheses with no sign between them that they mean multiply those two numbers that are touching. All right, if you got the vast majority of these right, congratulations, my little mathematicians. If not, try to find similar looking problems on some of our other worksheets with extra practice or in our textbook, and go ahead and give them a try. And then you will have mastered the order of operations.